I probably wouldn't be alive right now if it wasn't for the VA. I probably would be dead, either through overdose or through suicide or through something. I would not be here if it wasn't for the VA.
To have had the issues and to have gone through all of the things that she has been exposed to. She's very, very determined, very strong. She has just made great strides and really worked each step of the way with each program. She worked.
My father used to tell me that, basically, like his idea was a woman had her place, and I remember those things, and I think that was kind of instilled into my head when I was young, that a woman had her place in the house. She was not to be heard. My father was extremely abusive to me, my brother. He would hit us a lot. He threw my brother up against a wall one time when he was a baby. Once I became a teenager, I became a little wild. I lived in Georgia at the time, and I would stay out all night, or I would lie and say that I was somewhere. I started smoking pot when I was 12, and just really wild, a little promiscuous, very confused on who I was and what my place was in the world. The doctors felt that I have a pretty traumatic childhood, and then things that happened after that, and positions that I put myself in because of the way I felt about myself. So, yeah, it definitely started when I was young. I got so wild that my mother, when I was 16, sent me to live with my aunt in Oklahoma, just because I was just uncontrollable. It got to the point where I was starting to hit her. I went to a school there and graduated high school and did, my aunt was a little stricter. And once I graduated high school, I went back to Georgia to live with my mom, and that's when she kind of told me, it's time for the bird to leave the nest. I joined the Navy. I really liked it. I went to boot camp. In boot camp, I was somewhat of a problem child in a sense. I was sent to intensive training a few times, but by the end of it, the company commander actually came to me and said, I'm really glad you make it. You're going to make a good sailor. I was working in the legal office in Fleet Training Center, San Diego on 32nd Street Naval Station. And I really enjoyed that. What happened was I got married. I got married when I met my husband, and we got married, and I got pregnant, and he was abusive. I married like my father, and he hit me. It continued on. I got pregnant again, had a baby, got pregnant again. It was like 85, 86, 87, I was pregnant the whole time. And I felt like I didn't deserve any better, so I let him treat me like that. And when I was working in the supply office, they said, listen, I was pregnant, I'd already had one baby, and he said, they said, you really need to leave him. And I said, I know. I said, but I don't know how. And so they helped me, the Navy helped me. They let me out 3 months early so that he wouldn't know, because he knew that I was supposed to get out in November. So they let me out 3 months early, and on honorable discharge and everything. Arranged for them to move all my stuff for me and put it in storage until I could find a place to live, and I just left. I have a neighbor who was friends with my ex-husband, and he came and knocked on my door one night. I look at the window and I see it's my neighbor, so I open the door and let him in. He ends up pointing a knife at me. He told me if I screamed or made a noise, he was going to kill my kids if they woke up. So I let him do all this stuff with me and kept my mouth shut. They took me to the hospital, he did a rape kit and everything, and there was 3 matches. He tried to say he was never there. And so they arrested him. Well, about 4 days after that, my ex-husband came over and he brought crack with him. And that's when the first time I smoked crack. It just made everything go away. I had no emotion, and I liked that. By the time the guy went to court, because it took like 2 years for it to get to court, by that time, I'd lost my job, I wasn't doing really well, and he ended up he pled out, and he ended up getting a year and a day. I was doing okay. I met this girl that I became really good friends with named Linda, and she wanted to join the Army, be an MP. So of course she came to me because I'd been in the military, and she was like, well, will you just come to the recruiter with me? And I'm like, sure, I'll go to the recruiter with you. So we went to the Army National Guard recruiter, and we're there and we're talking to him, and he starts trying to recruit me. And I said, oh no, I already did my time, I'm good. He's like, no, he says, you can keep your rank and everything. And I was like, really? I said, do I have to go to boot camp again? He's like, no, you don't have to go to boot camp. I was like, well, okay, I'll sign up. So we both signed up, and I signed up for the Army National Guard, went in. I went, they gave me a uniform and let me be an E4 and gave me the place to report for duty, and I got there and had no clue what I was doing. I was a Navy girl in an Army uniform. I could not do a push-up to save my life, a real push-up. I couldn't do the run. The run was longer and shorter time. And basically the first sergeant and the commanding officer, they made a deal with me. They said, well, we can help you out, you help us, we help you. And so I started having sex with both of them. And I was a horrible soldier, and I knew that, and I just felt really bad about myself. And then the fact that I was having sexual relations with these two people that I really had no business, but they were helping me. Every time a PT test came, they made sure I was someplace else, that I had something else to do. And I don't know if they just, honestly, I don't know if they just passed me through it on paper or whatever, but I know I never took one, never went to a firing range, never shot an M16, never did anything as a person that is in the Army does. I never did any of that. I just broke down, and I ended up flipping out. I ended up in Fort McClellan in the mental ward. It was just a really bad situation, and I've really never been the same since then. I met a man, and I had gotten pregnant, and he was a married man, and he had left his wife for me. I don't know, I started doing drugs again, and I was pregnant, and it was really bad, and I ended up doing some coke again, and so I kind of struggled off and on with that. And when the baby was born, he left, and so then I was devastated because he left me, and I felt abandoned. I just went totally all out on the drugs again, and I started using like on a daily basis after that. And the police came to my house, and I was arrested for possession of paraphernalia. I got married again, was to a guy that was in a band, and I was doing really good, and he was a recovering alcoholic. Whereas I thought, well, his drug is different than my drug, so we should be okay for each other because we both know we need to stay away from stuff. Well, he started drinking again. Well, I started getting mad, saying, well, if you're going to drink, I'm going to go do my thing. And I ended up doing that, which I sabotaged myself because once I started, I couldn't stop. When he left, my life just went to hell after that. I mean, I started hustling to go get people drugs, and then they would give me part of it, and then it got to the point where I would hold people's stuff and try to sell it for them, and that would support my habit. And I got raided by the federal task force. So I went to court, and I was sentenced to 70 months, and CPS came in, and they took my son, but they gave him to my daughter. I actually handled prison better than probably most people would because of my military background. A lot of it is just rules and kind of like boot camp. And I just basically, everybody kept saying, do the time, don't let the time do you. So I kind of made it my world. For the first year, I was very angry, and I was blaming everybody else. And then after about a year, after listening to people and talking to people, I started taking responsibility for what I had done, and I started going to church and joined the choir, and I started getting involved in the program, in the stuff that they had there, recreational activities and stuff like that. I learned from them that you just have faith, and you learn what you're doing, learn how to just deal with things and just make the best of what you have, and that's what I started doing, and I became actually freer in prison than I was in civilian world. And when I got out, I just totally went to the VA. I said, listen, help me. I can't live. I don't know what to do. Now I'm homeless. I have nowhere to go. I have no prospects of employment. I don't know what to do. And so when I got to the halfway house here in Clarksburg, I came to the VA.
Natalie was released from incarceration and went into the halfway house, the Bantam House, which is a local program. Rich worked with her, our VJO rep worked with her to get her involved with our homeless program and begin to wrap those services around her so that she could re-enter the community, begin her education, start therapy and treatment, and just basically begin all those services to rebuild her life.
I had hit the wall, and I'd had enough of all my life and everything that had happened and all the things that the choices that I'd made, and I came to the VA and I called Malia Correa and I said, listen, I need help. And Rich Jones, who is the Justice Outreach, and Malia Correa came to the halfway house where I was at, and they sat me down and we had a long talk, and they said, well, we can help you.
Natalie was consulted to the program, and being that she met the criteria for the supported employment program, which is severe mental illness, I went ahead and I met with her and did the intake, and that's how we began our relationship.
You understand where their perspective, meet them where they are, what is happening with them legally, what has been done thus far, and then meet with each of the folks who are professionals who are involved in that person's situation, you know, their PO, their attorney, and make a decision about where to intervene and when to intervene, and basically come up with a plan, a treatment plan.
You live here at the VA, and you're on a schedule, and you go through groups all day long. They take you to meetings at night, and it was hard, but I did really well in it, and I learned a lot about myself. They helped me with developing boundaries. And confidence and self-esteem and stuff like that, and just recovery. They put me to work in the CWT program. I worked here at the VA in the library with Mary McLeod. She became my mentor and just the person that I looked up to. She helped me. Anytime that I started feeling like I wasn't going to make it, she would bring me into her office and said, oh yes you are. And she's still, to this day, I just love her. I love her to death. She's a very strong woman and somebody who I would like to be like. And she's just amazing. Everybody at the VA is amazing. They care so much about me. And I was to the point where I felt like nobody could care about me. And they just helped me feel like I could do it.
You're walking hand in hand, and these veterans have their employment. They're not used to people having their back. They don't know how to accept that or how to even be comfortable with it. So you have to do what's necessary to let them know that you're there and you have their back at whatever cost.
They're there with me to help me along, but it's not in that abusive, dysfunctional way that I always had in the past. This is a positive support group that I have, and that's what they are to me. They are my total support group. This is where I come when when I feel anyway. If I feel happy, they're who I call. Hey, guess what? If I feel sad or depressed, this is where I come and I say, this is how I'm feeling. And there's always somebody here to talk to me, or to give me advice, or just to listen. And that's what they do. They listen.
That was my role, was to provide her with the support that she needed to let her know she has this safety net, if you will, that somebody cares and will walk hand in hand with her out in the community for pretty much anything. I mean, daily needs, anything that arose at employment that was confusing to her or frustrating to her, we would talk it out. We would meet for lunches, we would meet after work, we would meet at the VA or in the community whatever was best for her.
It's actually about taking a different structured road and maintaining that so that they continue to be, get back on track and be contributing members of society. And we have several veterans, just to add on to that, including Natalie, who not only complete all of the tasks that are asked of them, but also take it to that 12th step, as we talk about in recovery, and give back. So they're mentoring other veterans who are recently released from prison or who have just finished the inpatient treatment program. We are basically connecting them with these veterans that have been so successful, and that actually helps their recovery and the recovery and success of the other veteran. And Natalie certainly has been involved in that as well. She basically did very well with her probation and meeting the requirements for her probation. The VJO, the treatment team, everyone involved continued to work with her, update the probation officer, provide her with housing opportunities and options. She got her an apartment, a nice apartment, just the right size for her. She was thrilled about that. I was able to help her move some things in and just be a part of something that special, that she was back to having her own place and she could have her dogs, which she loves. So, and just the fact that she's enrolled in schooling, and just from physical appearance to her emotional state, and just kind of where she is right now, it's just night and day compared to when we first started working with her.
I really am happy. I'm very content. It's life, I have little obstacles along the way, but with the VA's help, I get through them. And I work through it, and I work through it in a healthy way. I don't try to block it out or cover it up or wait for it to go away. I deal with it.
My role was to make her realize that there is somebody that she can trust, somebody that's going to have her back and be non-judgmental towards her and accept her for who she is.
And it is definitely worth it to me.